But to answer your question, I would steal an American Girl doll from a child if it meant I could finally have one.
You are listening to Chicagoland's finest podcast. The all-new Culture Cast begins now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the all-new Culture Cast. I'm Nick, and with me tonight is, of course,
Jen.
Jen. Yeah, I throw you there by doing something different.
It was a little bit of a little bit threw me off. It's true. It's not bad. It keeps me on my toes, keeps the podcast fresh. But I just didn't know what to do for a moment.
I try to keep.
I was gonna just call myself like the Gorehound, right?
You could. Well, I'm not convinced Gorehound will ever come back, but we'll see here. But until he comes back, I could do whatever I want because no one's going to tell me no. Ha ha ha.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we are tonight talking about I don't know if I'd call it a movie per se. It's a because it's only about 50 minutes long. But I stumbled across it, and then I thought to myself, I need to tell Jen about this, and we need to talk about it because it's amazing. The for the lack of a better term, the film Second Glance, which is a I don't know, Christ-ploitation type movie, I guess, if you want to label it.
Amazing.
But anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's get into one of our regular topics. What have you been watching? And
what have you been watching?
And Jen, it's been a while since we've done one of these together. Maybe not for our listener who's listening to these sequentially, but in terms of when we've last recorded one, it's been a while. So,
right.
Have you been watching anything fun or interesting?
So I've been listening to a lot of podcasts right now. I am so behind in movies. Just so behind, but it's fine. I have been listening to a lot of podcasts. One podcast I've been listening to that I think will appeal to other people my age bracket, especially women. And it was recommended by, a little-known newspaper called the New York Times.
I hear it's failing.
Some people say that. Some people, loud people, orange people. Anyway, so they talked about this podcast. It's called American Girls. And it's two women who are also historians, looking at the historically based books behind the American Girl dolls, which if you were young, if you were my age, you maybe also got the catalog delivered to your house. And in the catalog, they had these dolls. The dolls cost about $80, at least when I was a kid. I don't know what they cost now, but they cost about $80, and they had all these historically accurate accessories that would go with it. So the doll was like $80, but then you had to get different set of accessories and outfits for each book, and there were 6 books for each doll. And there were, I think, when I started caring about them, I think there were like 4 or 5 dolls, and by now there's 20,000 dolls. And, each, like I said, each of them have accessories, outfits, storybooks. When I was a kid, I very much wanted one of these dolls. And my mom said, well, if you save up the money, you can, you can buy one of these dolls. And then when I did save up the money, she said, no, spending that much money on a doll is dumb. And then I didn't get the doll. So about once a year when I'm drunk, that's not why I get drunk, but occasionally I get drunk. And when I get drunk, sometimes I think, I'm going to go buy an American Girl doll. What would I do with it? I don't know. I'm 34. I guess I would just have it. It would like watch me from my dresser or something. Sometimes I'd pull it down and like brush her hair, and then just be like, hey mom, suck it.
So basically, what you're saying is you did not have a childhood because you did not have one of these American Girl dolls.
I mean, actually, in many ways, I had a great childhood. For instance, I was overly blessed in Barbies. Just dozens of Barbies, lots of accessories. Why did I have these? They weren't $80 a pop. They were like $10. I do remember, actually, this is going to be very heartwarming. In my 20s, I found the big Rubbermaid tote, those big blue bins where you could keep your Christmas accessories or whatever. I found one of Barbies, and I put it up on FreeCycle, and then got to deliver it to like this mom and her 4-year-old. And I was like, here, have this giant box of 80s and 90s Barbies. And the girl's eyes just about fell out of her head. And, the mom was very grateful. And I, got rid of all my Barbies. Now, the thing that's sad, of course, as an adult is I back and say, well, they're never going to make Barbies with crimped 1991 hair again. But, I think it's important that we, don't keep our Barbies forever. So,
can I tell a story that did not happen to me, but it happened to my cousin, not Cuz, who's on this show occasionally, who's getting married this weekend as of this recording. So that's fun.
Oh my God! Very exciting.
But his sister, actually. So his sister was younger, and she wanted an American Girl doll, as young girls tend to want them. I eagerly await the day when my 2 little girls want their American Girl dolls. But my aunt, bless her soul, didn't really want to pop for the money because my cousin was still kind of young, and American Girl dolls are the investment, and you want to make sure they're handled well and all that. And she went to Target and got the American Girl knockoff doll, which is, I don't know what that's called, like Girl of America or United States Girl, or I don't know what the knockoff is called. But it's significantly cheaper, and if you're none the wiser, you don't know the difference. So I got to her for one Christmas, and her friend or another relative or something was over, and my cousin was showing, look, I got an American Girl doll, and the other girl's like, that's not an American Girl doll. That's the fake one. Needless to say, my aunt was not pleased about that and eventually had to go and get the real dolls. Fun stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's definitely true that these dolls were a status symbol, that, conspicuous consumption, it definitely, and, they say the quality went down when the company sold. The original company was the Pleasant Company. And then they sold it to Mattel. So now it's actually made by the same people that made my Mountain of Barbies, which is neither here nor there. But it's just interesting how as time goes on, there's only like 5 companies.
Oh, yeah.
So.
One day Disney will own everything, and then we won't have to worry about competition anymore. Win-win. Mm-hmm. But so anything else that you've been watching? That's my latest and greatest. I don't have too much else. A fall TV is starting up soon, so hopefully I'll have some more interesting answers later. But as of right now, that's my main answer. As for me, I have been watching a lot of Sesame Street because my oldest, has discovered the show and likes watching it. So anytime she gets out of control, crazy, or tantrum, like, it's Sesame Street time, and that kind of like calms her down and shuts her up, which is always nice. But it's amazing how Sesame Street has evolved over time, and now that it's primarily produced by HBO, it definitely has a standard format for the show, which is it's less about all the characters and more about like the trinity of characters, which is Elmo, Cookie Monster, and Abby, which is a relatively newer character. It came out about 10, 15 years ago. But
is she pink?
She's pink and has like fairy wings.
Sure.
So there's that. But in terms of, I actually was able to watch a real movie the other day.
Wait a second. She has fairy wings, but she's a Sesame Street character. Are they wings she's wearing, or are they like part of her innate body?
Part of her innate body. She's a fairy.
I'm sorry, but that really bothers me because one of the things that really was the best about Sesame Street was its realness. These are kids, and they live on a street, and there's a shopkeep, and like a bald guy, and you can't suddenly just be like, also fairies are real. Like, what?
So let me get this straight. You can accept that there's a giant-ass bird who's best friends with a whatever the hell Snuffleupagus is, and
sad elephant.
Sad elephant. And monsters who live on the street who openly say that we're monsters. And not to mention talking animals. But a fairy, that's where you draw the line.
Yeah, thank you for understanding.
Okay. Sure. Okay. The idea behind Abby coming in is that she was deliberately meant to be someone not from Sesame Street, down to her general appearance, because they want to introduce a new character who moved in and was the quote unquote new person on the block, but they didn't want to have to go into detail about going into any specific nationality. So like to explain like, oh, you're from Mexico, or you're from Ireland, or you're from somewhere that's not here. Instead giving like a not a generic background, but oh, you're a fairy, so you're a different type of person that's around here, to teach more about inclusion that Sesame Street is big on. So that might be
Mm-hmm.
part of the reason why she's a bit of a magical creature. Although they don't go too much into it overall in the general narrative of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Okay, sorry. You saw a movie. It was
I
for adults. No
yes.
one was fairies, presumably.
Well, no. I watched. It's been on my DVR for a while. Deadpool 2,
Hmm.
which it was all right. I mean, if you saw the first one, there's really no reason to go back and visit this world because it was kind of just more of the same. I
Mm-hmm.
will give it credit. It's not like the sequel was a copy paste remake of the first one, as sequels often tend to be. But I don't know. It was a very simple storyline, which is fine. But I felt they tried to throw a lot of things in there to make it seem more complicated than it needed to be, or more complex than it needed to be. And I don't know if it necessarily needed that. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's fine. It's okay. I won't need to rush back
Yeah.
to see it. But it's probably T.J. Miller's last big role he'll ever have in terms of
Ideally.
a career. Um, Man, there's a guy who completely self-detonated.
Oh my God. Too soon.
What?
Because
Oh,
he called in the bomb threat.
oh! I was not even. That was a faux pas. I did not mean to reference that. I just meant that, of course there was the sexual harassment, assault allegations, but even besides that, everything he did just kind of like he was his own victim, if that makes any sense, on everything. But yeah, but good times. But yeah, that's the last movie I'd watched was Deadpool. I have like a slew. Kiwi and I have a slew of movies saved on our DVR that we'll never get to, but they're there for when have time to watch
For
a movie.
after your kids graduate.
Well, at least until the youngest one starts going into a regular bedtime at around 6:30 or so, like the older one. So then we can get our evenings back. That's going to be another. So
All right. So
let's move.
since we don't have Gorehound, are we gonna get a Man Crush Monday out of you?
No, I don't do that man crush thing because I'm all man and super straight. Hear my macho voice, rawr.
Perfect.
That's me being sarcastic as a dude bro. Or the MRA, was it the men rights activists who are,
Oh, Chuck,
you
don't
know,
summon them.
you know, they might have a general point on in a most general sense, but the fact that their like biggest mouthpieces are like the most frothing, idiotic people out there, it's like any point you're trying to make is completely destroyed by your behavior.
Right.
But so no, in all seriousness, no, I choose purposely not to do the man crush because that is Gorehound's thing, and I don't want to step on his toes, and I wouldn't even know who I would pick for man crush. Do you have a man crush Monday?
Oh no, men are garbage.
Oh, that's fair. Well, that's why you married one, huh?
Yes. Yes. I cannot improve all of you, but I can improve one of you.
Start with one and go from there.
Right.
So, anyway, talking about improving lives, let's move on to our topic of
Mm-hmm.
the night, Second Glance. I was very excited to watch this film. I stumbled across it due to an internet meme that I was unaware of was an internet meme until I found it about a month ago, where it's just the tail end of the movie where our main
Wait,
character.
spoilers. Spoilers.
Oh, yeah. Spoilers. And there aren't. Yes, we are going to be spoiling a movie that no one has seen, no one will see, that was released in 1992. So,
Look, somebody is watching it. I watched it.
that's true.
I can't remember how many other people had watched it on YouTube, but my guess is at least 40% of them are stoned.
All right, well,
I mean, this is just a blanket, baseless guess based on the fact that, didn't you want to be?
um, the internet meme that goes around is our main character turning to the other character, Scotty, and going, "Hey, Scotty, Jesus, man." And I just saw that little
Right.
clip, and I was like, what is this? I need to learn more. And that led me to
And you were
watching.
like, what a human regular thing for one teenager to say to another.
Even the most religious people that I know, and I know a few, and that they're, I don't mean that in a negative connotation. Just I know they're very, very religious. I don't think they would say this. I think they'd be like, this is what people think religious people are. But Second Glance takes a page from It's a Wonderful Life, in which our protagonist, Daniel, wishes that he was not a believer. Because as being a believer in I don't know if it says what denomination he is, but Christian, as a believer in Christianity, he
Probably evangelical.
given certain things, yes. He feels he can't have any fun, go to parties, can't date the girl that he has a crush on, and he wakes up the next morning as if he was never a believer. And apparently he's the worst person in the world because now he drinks and he wears his baseball cap on sideways. And
While sleeping.
yeah, while sleeping. And he inadvertently caused the death of other people because he wasn't there to stop them. And like I'm watching this, and this is the most ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous mindset. Like it's two extremes in this movie. Like you're a believer and your life is great, or you may not believe, and you know you're just destined for complete sin.
I mean, can we just talk for a second? I really feel like, you know, the It's a Wonderful Life style, you know, what if you'd never been born? What if kind of movies are not that hard. I don't think they're hard to, like, make work. You know, it's an evergreen trope. People love it, you know. You know, that's why we keep coming back to it. You know, in much the same way that I'd say, like, you know, A Christmas Carol is a sort of evergreen, quick, culturally understood, beloved, at least in the Western world, like setup for a story. You know, every sitcom in the 90s had an episode where, for some reason, it was A Christmas Carol, right? Like, right. So, you know, there's something about that. People are just like, yes, I remember, you know, seeing that at Christmas. I understand it as a trope. You should definitely make 1,000 episodes of TV that reference it, you know, whatever.
Even if you've never seen It's a Wonderful Life or A
right.
Christmas Carol or something like that, it's so ingrained in general pop culture that when a movie does it or a TV show does it, you immediately get what they're trying to do.
And the fact that it can be done in a, let's say, so it's the 90s, so episodes of TV are still like 25 minutes long. But you can do that whole story and people are going to be like, yeah, I get it, you know. So the fact that they had twice as long to tell this story, but somehow it's much, much worse than any sitcom-y version of it. So look, I'm also going to say this, like, well, okay, no, let's talk about the movie and then we'll talk about like broader implications for Christianity in movies.
Yes.
Because I think that is another very interesting topic. But we'll come to that. Let's talk specifics.
Okay.
Daniel, is he the worst person you've ever met?
No. Seems like an average teenager who feels conflicted.
I mean, look, teenagers in general...
Oh, wait, are you talking about Daniel pre-Wish or post-Wish?
Oh, I think either. Because I think... So here's the thing, right? So the movie posits that Daniel is, you know... First of all, I mean, obviously Daniel is all that stands between Scotty and the great abyss, and all that stands between Bull and destroying other people. So, you know, obviously, like, they really set it up. And look, I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't think that the people who created this movie have ever interviewed a woman, met one in real life. You know, I think they just kind of like, you know, they looked at the Victoria's Secret catalog when they were 9 and their mom hit them, and then that was the end of that, you know?
I want to put a pin in that for me because I have some thoughts on the main female character in this movie, which we'll come back to, but I just wanted to make sure I said that before we don't forget it.
Right. And I'll just say, I think you can tell that they've never met a woman because if you watch the one that's on YouTube, at the end, they've uploaded a bunch of commercials for the other movies.
Yes.
And I was watching it with Thor, because I was like, Thor, it's very important that you watch this with me. And we're watching at the end, and I was like, I don't think they've ever met a woman. Like, I thought that when I watched this movie, but now I'm certain of it, until they came to one movie. So out of the, like, 6 or so movies they were advertising, there was one that had a female lead. And that one was all about how you shouldn't hold hands with a boy before you're married because your dad told you when you were 8. And I was just like, ah!
You know, those commercials at the end. Have you ever seen the movie Tropic Thunder?
No, but I know of it.
At the beginning of that movie, they have a bunch of parody trailers for other films that parody various genres. And I swear to God, those real trailers at the end of the YouTube video version of Second Glance reminded me of them. The only difference is those are actual movies that were made and were done in earnest.
Some of them starring the same bland, child leading this one.
I'm guessing that Rich Cristiano, which that has to be a fake name. He does Christian movies. His last name's Cristiano. Come on. I think they do all these movies together. I think they have like a trope, trope. What's the right term? Trope of actors that they pull from who.
Oh, a troupe of actors.
Yes.
Delivering these movies that are full of tropes, which are a different thing.
Yes. That's very true. But I think they just use like the same group, kind of like how Christopher Nolan always goes back to the well with the same actors again and again. Which
I mean, not exactly the same, but
Christopher Nolan makes good, contemplative,
right.
makes you think quality films, and the Cristiano brothers they do something very different.
So, look, okay, but let's just talk about, so Daniel's presented as this, like, a great guy, all that's standing between his classmates and, death outside of the Lord or whatever. But at the same time, he's like, he's talking to Tamara, and Tamara's like, hey, are you going to are you going to go to this party? And he's like, no, because, I don't know, sin. And then she's like, you should come, which, like, first of all, great. Good job, Tamara. But second of all, then, 20 minutes later, they're in the library, ? And he talks to her, and he's like, hey, I was just wondering if you wanted to, like, hang out tomorrow night. And she's like, no, I'm going to the party. And I was just like, this is this right here, we've managed to, like, show the only legitimate interaction I've ever seen in this movie where, like, a man is like, oh, hey, like, this thing you said, I've already forgotten about it. And I just thought, every nice guy out there who's like, I don't understand why girls don't want to date me. They only want to date bad boys like, discount AC Slater. And, and they get real mad about it. And it's like, well, to be fair, she literally told you she was busy tomorrow night. And then you're like, let's go get hamburgers. Well, she already told you she had plans. Like, what is wrong with you? Why does the movie seem to know that's a problem?
I have... Oh, and just to add to that, she also tried to invite him out to the party.
Yes!
Which clearly she's not, like, put off by him. Like, she likes hanging around him. Clearly has no feelings for him other than friendship, maybe. But, here's the thing. I don't know how much I want to blame Dan or Daniel, I guess, and his stupid ignorance versus just the writers forgot that happened 20 minutes earlier in the movie.
That's entirely possible.
Because I'm not going to lie, there were certain parts of this movie that I was trying to make the timeline line up. Like, when was this party? Like, there's something about, like, the Christian Club was having a movie at the end of the week.
See, the Christian Club is having a movie at the end of the week, but the party seems to be on a Thursday, and I was like, look, I don't care how bad these kids think they are, but, like, a Thursday party, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I was very confused by all that. I didn't get it until the end when, like, oh, the party was on Thursday, and it was very weird for me. But
it's just a weird choice. It definitely seems like the Rich Cristiano or whatever had, like, never been to a party and just had sort of, like, heard about them and was like, oh man, what's the most sinful party I can think of? And then when he creates the party, it looks very tame. Very tame. I mean, maybe it's tame because it's a Thursday. Maybe the Friday night party was going to be more fun.
That's when things get out of control. Like, are they drinking? Is it implied they're drinking beer at the party? I mean, they never, like, part of the issue is all the bad kids, outside of just being general buttholes, which let's face it, high school kids are buttholes in
Right.
general. They don't do anything that's, like overly sinful. Like if they really want to, if they really want to ham it up, like a movie like God's Not Dead or that ilk, which generally have a little bit higher production value. If they really want to like ham it up about the evils of being a non-believer, they should have had I can't think of what that douchebag's name was, like his enemy slash later on friend. Um, they should have had him like doing like really bad things, like I'm drinking and driving right now, and hey look, I'm
Right.
stealing this kid's stuff, and
It's not like he's doing a bump of coke at lunch. Like
yeah,
he's just sort of a jerk.
right.
I think he wore a seatbelt while driving. Like, but on a scale of things.
Like I guess it's they in a classic case of telling and not showing how they cause like their was it their math teacher to quit, and now he's like a waiter because he gave up on like kids and everything.
Right, but then got a job very close to the school.
Yeah. Oh, he cuts class. That's the one bad thing he does. Like he cuts class, and
You're gonna cut class to go meet girls by the lake.
yeah, and the implication is that
Very
he's,
weird.
the implication is that he's dating around, and I know he said one of the girls said that you got me pregnant, but that was just a lie, right?
That was a lie. So I feel like it's definitely implied that bad believer or I'm sorry, unbeliever Daniel is indeed having sex with two other women at his school, but like I think she's lying about being pregnant, but not lying about the fact that they're probably having sex because
right.
unbelievers,
Right.
just
I mean,
sin factor.
that would be a weird thing to make up if you've never had sex with a person. Well, I'm pregnant with your
Right.
child. There's a process that causes that if they're not.
Right.
So yeah, they definitely are probably doing it. But
I mean, it's also weird to announce. So if you want to get rid of this other girlfriend, right, who like seems to be the like publicly known girlfriend, and then because the other girl has a boyfriend, so obviously that's all been a secret. And then she runs up and she's like, I broke up with Bull 20 minutes ago and I'm pregnant with your baby. And I'm like, what about this is like a good plan? Like,
well,
what part of you is like, this is how this will work out well in my favor?
to be fair, we don't spend much time with this particular character, so she could just
Melanie. She could be very stupid. Who
yeah,
knows?
she could be, as the kids say, cray cray, which
She was only allowed to have like 4 lines.
right. But which makes me wonder, like, is she like this with Bull in the real timeline, or is that
Is she like faking pregnancy all the time?
yeah, is that like her thing?
I mean, I think Bull would be happy because Bull is definitely 40 years old, and it's about time to starting a family.
Yeah, I love that most of the actors in it are clearly much older than high school kids. It's like 90210 all over again. But
like it's weird because they're not like attractive enough where you're like, okay, I get why you cast a 26-year-old, because ultimately 16-year-olds are sort of doughy and unformed. Like, I get it. But like instead they just picked like what's the nice way to put this? Like very realistic looking people.
yeah.
Who are not what I want to devote my free time, my free watching time to. I want to watch beautiful people, like, having, I don't know, relationship problems or something, but like very, like, easily fixed by, brushing their hair differently or putting on a different color of lipstick or taking off their glasses. Those are the kind of problems I want to see in Hollywood. Like, not regular people. I can look at regular people at work.
I want to go back to the other female character, Tamara. I one of the things I really appreciated about the one silver lining in this movie is I like how they structured Tamara's character in so much that in a, dare I say, lesser movie,
Could be lesser.
I know. Well, that features these kinds of situations. The character of Tamara would have been depicted as snotty and entitled and full of herself, and someone that Dan is clearly head over heels because she's pretty, but she has no redeeming qualities beyond that.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going.
That's a standard trope in a lot of these sort of movies, and that's okay because those types of movies are very cartoony. But Tamara is written as, sure, she's one of the popular girls, but she's nice. She is nice to Dan. When he asks her out, she still puts him down kindly and says still wants to be friends with him. She doesn't. I don't recall her like mocking his religion or anything like that.
Right.
I mean,
she seems to be an actual nice person, even if she hangs out with like the bad kids.
Right. And bad kids again, in quotes.
Using term loosely. Right, yeah. Exactly.
But it's weird how the angel,
oh dear Lord.
Did the angel have a name? I honestly can't remember.
It was Myrtle?
It might be. I don't remember. Matthew? No.
No.
No. Yeah, it was
Muriel.
Muriel. Okay. Thank you, Wikipedia. How like at the end of the movie, he was like telling Daniel, "You just wanted to date her because you wanted to have sinful relations with her." And and it's kind of like I wouldn't say this is a sticking point for me, but it took me a while and it still does. So forgive me if I kind of talk randomly here. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this concept. Because yes, he's a teenage boy. He has hormones. Tamara's pretty. Clearly he has some sexual desire for her. That's what happens. That's a thing. But at no point in the movie where he just kind of lusts after her. He just expresses that he has a crush on her, and people tease him for it, and like his family and whatnot. But it's not like he's like, oh, I gotta have her, otherwise, I got the blue balls and blah blah blah. Use all your cliches there. And when the angel says this to him, he's like, yeah. And he's like, don't you want to have someone that you could build a relationship with and get to know them? It's like, well, why couldn't he do that with Tamara if she was interested in him?
Right.
And
I mean, he clearly has gotten to know her at least a little bit. Like, they seem to be study buddies in some capacity.
Yeah. And at the end of the movie, he asks out that other girl, kind of randomly, because it was established early on that she has a crush on him, because she says something like, well, not all girls. I think, what did Dan say? Dan says something like, oh, girls don't want to hang out with a guy who's like a dweeb. And she's like, well, some girls do, clearly indicating that she has the hots for him.
I mean, it also feels like the movie, like not the story, but the movie is like, look, hey, I know you want to go for Tamara, but like, just because she's got like an accent and, is relatively cute. But the important thing to remember is that if you put absolutely no effort into anyone else, somebody will just be like, but I'm also here. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
the movie seemed to be rewarding him for question mark?
Yeah.
I guess for saving Scotty. I guess this woman's hopes and desires are mostly, that she still gets to be a gift because we saved Scotty.
Yeah.
So we could get Scotty's profound thoughts on Jesus. Like, Jesus,
man. Yeah, it was very, the whole, like, relationship aspect was, or the attempt at a relationship aspect was very strange to me because it didn't make sense based on what we've learned in the movie. And if Tamara was more of a snotty, unlikable character, then maybe I can get behind it. But she's not. Like, it's so weird. I don't know what they were trying to say or explain with that.
I feel like, so here's an interesting observation, which I missed the first time around, and Thor pointed out to me. So we have to thank Thor for this. There's a scene when, Bad Daniel wakes up. He's, like, all atheist. He's wearing his, like, hat. His mom doesn't cook anymore. Like, obviously his life is shit, right? He's got 2 friends. One of them has a car, whatever. Anyway, so, life is terrible, whatever. He goes and he's dating Tamara, and they're by the lockers, and then she, like, kisses him goodbye. And the way they film it, they, like, another kid comes up and opens the locker so that we can't see this horrible moment of these 2 sinners kissing on the mouth
That's amazing. Which,
So this is not, and I want to emphasize, this is not like second base at the lockers or something, right? This is not like hot and heavy, like real bad kid tongue kissing. This is like very chaste, like, hey honey, I'll see you after chemistry, like, mwah, closed mouth kissing. And they open the locker so that you can't see the kiss. And I was just like, and he's like, they're obviously doing this to appeal to the most conservative, like, people who would be watching the movie, who would be upset about this. And I was just like, I am going to lose my mind, like, thinking about the people who feel like two bad characters kissing on the mouth is going to ruin their children.
They probably didn't actually kiss then. They probably did that to hide not only what you and Thor were talking about, but also so that the actors wouldn't kiss and then commit sin. Yeah.
Do you know? So entirely different movie, but Kirk Cameron was in a movie called Fireproof, and which was about like two people who don't seem to like each other very much, like fixing their relationship through capitalism. And anyway, it doesn't matter, but basically, you should buy the book called Fireproof. It's all about your relationships. And that was, it was basically a commercial for that. And anyway, but long story short, at the end of the movie, he like kisses his wife, which is like a thing that characters do and that actors also do because it's a movie. Except Kirk Cameron didn't want to kiss the actress playing his wife, so they brought in his real wife, put a wig on her, and put them in the dark so that he could kiss her on the mouth without sin. And look, I'm not saying that I need all the actors in movies to like take off their pants in front of me, but like there's a certain amount of and I'm definitely not someone who thinks that all acting needs to be method acting, but I also feel like if you aren't willing to kiss the actress playing your wife on the mouth, maybe acting is not what you're meant to do with your life.
That's absolutely amazing. And doesn't surprise me at all, because I've heard stories about Kirk Cameron, and especially in the early days when he found religion.
Oh, yeah, and he like alienated everyone.
Yeah, I
was going to say, my favorite article on the AV Club, which you should all Google immediately. We'd put it in our show notes, but I don't think we have them. But you should Google this, and it was from like 2011 and was talking about Kirk Cameron posting this like very sad picture on his Instagram of his birthday. And so for his birthday, there's like two women in the office, and one of them's like standing behind a pile of boxes, and the other one's like kind of off to the side. And then there's like 3 foot-long Subway sandwiches, but also one half a Subway sandwich that are wrapped up next to like this very sad cake. And so it's this picture of Kirk Cameron, 1.5 women, 3.5 sandwiches, and like half a bottle of juice, and they're like, and he's blowing out the candles on a cake, and talking about like him, like basically not having any friends at his birthday party. And it was just, sometimes I just Google it and I laugh for hours because amazing.
Hey, I don't know. That sounds like an amazing birthday. 2.5 foot long sandwiches and a cake and no one bothering me. That sounds amazing.
I'll let your wife know.
Okay.
Anyway,
just
we're getting far afield.
I know. I just wanted to touch on another Kirk Cameron story really quickly.
Oh yes, definitely.
Apparently, on Growing Pains, when he became big in religion, there was a scene. And I'm doing this from memory, so don't. If I get some of it wrong, internet, don't take it out on me too much. But there's a scene where his character and his girlfriend in the show were in bed and were supposed to be talking about, I don't know if it was about sex per se, but intimate conversations. And
right, bedroom whispers.
Yeah, and Kirk Cameron refused to do that scene because he thought it was inappropriate that an unmarried couple would be like this. And he refused to do it to the point where they had to add in dialogue that was revealed that what the girl was saying, that she was rehearsing lines for a play that she was in, and Kirk Cameron's character was, line reading with her. Which is just, it's insane. Like, it's acting. It's
very silly.
You're not, like, actually marrying this person. You're not going to, like, really do it with this person.
I can't imagine. First of all, like, not that Growing Pains was some, like, amazing show, but also, like, one of the basic premises was that Mike Seaver, played by Kirk Cameron, was sort of a dirtbag in many ways.
Yeah, he was a stereotypical, like, dumb teenager who got into get-rich-quick schemes, and your typical trope you would find in the late 80s, early 90s.
His best friend was named Boner. Like, what? Like, I don't know what Kirk Cameron thought that character's name meant, but I can tell you.
Maybe that's why they introduced Leonardo DiCaprio on the show, to be the new resident bad kid.
Ugh.
But anyway.
I do remember. Anyway, so back to Daniel. So Daniel, he kisses this girlfriend on the mouth, but not for our eyes. That would be wrong.
The thing I love about this movie is that there's no shades of gray. It's just two extremes.
No.
Like, you're a believer and everything's great and perfect, and you just gotta, like, deal with the temptation of sin, or you're an atheist dirtbag who sucks at life and destroys everything around you. Like, there's no middle ground. Like,
no.
There's
no fun either. Like, he gets all the so Bad Daniel, right? Let's just call him Bad Daniel. He wakes up, he's got a hangover, so clearly he was drinking, but he didn't get to be drunk. He doesn't drink at the party, so we don't get to see him, like, enjoying alcohol. He has two girlfriends, but we don't, other than this one brief closed-mouth kiss, you don't get to see him enjoying either of their company, really. He gambled to get his car, right? He gambled to get his car. He doesn't even get to drive the car because his mom borrows it for the day.
That's right.
So I feel like if you're gonna say that, like, being a non-believer is no fun, and everything's terrible, I think you're not giving him the opportunity to even experience any of the fun parts of the sin. Do you know what I mean?
Well, let me counter that, because I'm not saying this was deliberate, because that's giving this movie too much credit.
Way too much credit.
But I think they accidentally went into it, is that even though Danny is not a believer and he gets all this cool stuff, what he thinks he wants and should have, he's still not able to enjoy it. And that's part of the reason is being, I'm a non-believer, things are actually worse. Because even the stuff I would want, turns out I don't even get. Again, I'm not giving this movie credit for thinking it that much out. But if you're looking at it from a critical eye, that's a way that I think could be potentially interpreted.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe that was on purpose. Maybe what I think is their inability to cope with the idea that there could be joy in a life lived with, without the shadow of a Godhead. What I'm actually getting is that it's a metaphor for how even once you do the sin, you can't really enjoy yourself. No, I like that. It makes them seem less like dumb hacks and more like people who thought about their movie.
I think they're dumb hacks, but
they're dumb hacks.
I think they lucked into this. It's like,
also, can I just say this movie was apparently made in 1992, but it looks like it was shot on Fruit by the Foot.
Yeah.
Everything is, like, very softly lit. I feel like it's, it's so weird. Did they not have any light bulbs available? Like, what is happening?
I first thought this movie was something that was made in, like, the late 80s as, like, an after-school TV special sort of thing, because it has that sort of film-type quality to it that was accustomed to them. But, yeah, it's right on the cusp where it looks like it's a early 90s commercial. Like you said, Fruit by the Foot, that's perfect. Because it reminded me of, like, a Fruit by the Foot commercial, because they're dressed in, like, early 90s, what kids were wearing, and that's unmistakable. But the way it was shot, maybe it was just what they could afford, because clearly this movie had a budget of like $5.
Right, everyone must be a volunteer.
Well, they're all strong believers, so their payment is with the Lord.
Sure.
Like, I don't know. I'll admit I'm a Christian. I'm a born Catholic, but attend Lutheran stuff because Kiwi's Lutheran, and it's close enough. But I can't see anyone with half a brain who would watch a movie like this who is a believer and think like, yeah, this is, they're telling the right story, because
Yeah.
it's so nonsense. It's so, I don't want to say ignorant per se, but like there's no nuance. There's no shades of gray in there. Like
There's no scenario where he could have gone and experienced life as a non-believer and been like, actually, you know what? My life is ultimately not changed in material ways, or maybe my parents are happier being divorced, or like none of that. There's no self-reflection. There's no. I think so. To lay my cards out on the table, I am a complete atheist. I enjoyed this movie, but probably not on the level to which they wanted me to.
Because I know of your, forgive me for making assumptions, but because I knew of your general religious background when I watched this, I'm like, this is the main reason why I said, Jen, you have to watch this.
And I did, and it was wonderful. But so as an atheist, I think just to pull the curtain back a little bit, I think, or not the curtain, I guess pull the camera back and incorporate more of the world in this discussion. But I think it's really interesting because Christianity, like as a concept, there's a lot of really interesting stories there, and I feel like there's a lot of really interesting art out there that you could make about Christianity that would be really interesting and challenging to believers and even non-believers to hear these stories and watch these struggles, and none of that is reflected here, right? It's just, if you're a Christian and you pray hard enough, your friends won't die. But, again, it's just this very facile, like, how do I phrase this? Stupid view of the world where, like, the only thing, that you need in life is Jesus, and that's it. And, like, that's not going to be a very compelling message to anyone who is not already. So, at the, the movie ends, right? And, what is the main message of the movie? It's not just about not touching dirty whores like Tamra. It's also about...
Who's not even that dirty.
No, although I do think she is in a three-way relationship with AC Slater and his buddy, because they are always hanging out together, the three of them. That's neither here nor there. But I'm just saying, like, there could be some really challenging, interesting art made, and it is they in no way have even tried to make it challenging for anyone. It's basically a way of preaching to the converted, to the people who are already there. And then at the end of the movie, you may remember there's the whole weird monologue about dating a pure woman or whatever, but there's also the last scene in the school, or one of the last scenes before he talks to Scotty, of course. He's talking to AC Slater, and he's saying, you should come to this movie, because he knows, because Muriel has told him. I'm going, secretly. Oh, Richie, is that his name?
I don't remember. I don't care.
Anyway, possibly Richie. Richie's been secretly reading his Bible, okay? So in a way that we could never possibly know in real life, he already knows, this weird angel man has told him that there is, that this guy is already receptive to this message, and he's been secretly reading his Bible in between, I guess, bullying the teacher and meeting girls by the lake. He's been reading his Bible, and so at the end, he's like, hey, you should come to this movie. And the guy's like, I don't want to. And then he's like, I think you should, and, like, picks him up and, like, tries to, like, threaten to beat up this school bully or whatever. And then he's like, yeah, I'm going to come to the movie, but I'm going to leave if I don't like it. He's like, but you're going to like it. And I feel like there's a metaphor here for, or how they think it should go, or how you should be able to talk to your non-believer friends about going to see this terrible movie, or other terrible movies also available from the Cristiano brothers. And it's like, they have this idea that, like, oh, we're gonna, in the end, all you have to do is bully your friends, and then they'll go to your dumb movie, for which you need a ticket, even though it's, like, at a school. I have a lot of questions about the logistics there.
There's a lot of questions about this school I have in general.
Right, like, it seems to be a public school, but the teacher is going up to one of the students and being like, well, you're a believer, so I know you're, good. Like, this is a public school, man. Like, stop it. Even if you're the same religion. That's real weird. But anyway, so, it is absolutely fascinating to see how they think that converting people works? And the answer is pick them up by the collar and tell them they have to come to your dumb movie.
Well, maybe if you went to Mass more often, you'd realize that's a very common practice. Like the priest just picks you up and be like, you will eat this communion wafer.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Honestly, I'd respect them more if they did. I'd be like, you know what? Fair enough. I guess I have to eat this weird cracker now. Like, let's do this. Let's just do this.
You raise an interesting point about how there are a lot of tenets of Christianity that can make into good movies, and I'm not saying.
Oh, definitely.
I think the premise of this movie was fine enough on premise alone that you could make. Well, what if a believer decided, I wish I was a non-believer, and see how his life changes from there, and discovering that, you know what, my life, I'm happier as being a believer for whatever reason. I'm not going to speculate how to do that movie, but I think you could tell a good enough story and a movie out of that. I don't understand, because there's a lot of movies like this. As I jokingly referred to at the beginning, like Christ-ploitation type films that make like anyone who's not a believer like into like a mustache twirling villain who like your movie like God's Not Dead. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I don't recommend it.
I have not seen it. I tried to convince a friend of mine to go see it with me, and she was just like, we can't do that. That can't be a thing that happens.
You would have contributed like $1.50 to its like $10 box office. But I haven't seen it either. But I've read a lot about these types of movies, and it's I don't know what the point would be to turn the non-believers, the atheists, into like these cartoon villains who are like, well, I'm going to get you because you're a believer, and you're a snotty bad person for believing. Ha 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 ha. Not to say that some atheists out there aren't like that. I'm sure there are, just as there are holier than thou religious people out there. But I don't get why you can't have a film. It doesn't have to be a mainstream film, because a lot of those films don't like to touch religion unless it's like a decidedly religious story like Passion of the Christ or Noah or something like that. Why it has to go to like just the extremes? Like it's very strange. I mean, I don't know enough because I don't think there's a lot of atheist movies out there. But how often religious people are depicted in movies as being like closed-minded and overly pious, but it's just weird why you can't have a movie that I'm aware of that can't balance that out a little bit by saying like, listen, you're not a believer and that's fine, but you know what, this is good for me, or I don't know.
I think it would be, so I know you said you didn't want to speculate on what a better version of this movie would be, but I do think that if, like, and again, as a non-religious person, I think it would be really interesting to see a movie from a Christian filmmaker, or from a Christian filmmaker perspective that was, you know, where ultimately Daniel wakes up and he's a non-believer and his life is different, but not like significantly worse, you know, where maybe his parents are divorced, but they're both happier now. Or, you know, who cares about the little sister? She seemed terrible, but like, you know, but they're assuming they both exist. You know, they're both well adjusted, and, you know, things are different. And maybe in the end he says, you know, ultimately like, oh, I live this other life and I'm dating Tamara, but only Tamara, and I'm, you know, my friends can be sort of jerks, but, you know, my old friends could be kind of jerks sometimes too. But ultimately the big difference is that I just don't feel as fulfilled emotionally or spiritually, and, you know, I like lived this other life for a few weeks and I kind of miss going to church, and I just can't imagine, you know, not having that in my life, or, you know, something like that. And I think that, you know, I don't know that it would appeal to atheists, but I think it would be a much more honest approach to a story. You know, it would be a much more, you know, it wouldn't be a black and white morality play in the same way this one is, but it would feel more realistic, you know?
Yeah, that's I can't argue with that at all. I agree.
Yeah. It's too bad. I think it's too bad because there clearly is like we don't have time to go into it, but there's clearly money involved in, these kind of Christ-ploitation movies that you're talking about. They know who they're appealing to. They're appealing to buses full of, believers going to go see the movie after, through like a program at their church, and they're all going to get in a bus and go see the movie. And, that's how they're making, a not insignificant percentage of their box office on these big movies, is by, engaging the flock, so to speak. But there's clearly money in these movies. I think it would be interesting if they were willing to, first of all, make it look good. And second of all, like, tell a more interesting story. Tell a more nuanced story. Not just sort of blow past things. Like, for instance, at the end of this movie, we're left with the understanding that, like, here's believer Daniel kept Scotty from killing himself. He kept his parents from getting divorced. He kept Bull from, destroying Rodrigo or whoever. And, Roger, it doesn't matter. Anyway, he did all these things using prayer. And then, so in the end, you're kind of like, okay, so if my parents are divorced, is it because I didn't pray enough? Like, it's a very interesting message.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine like showing this to my child. I think you'd really have to think about what you're teaching your child there, because in the end, the message seems to be that if bad things happen, it's because you didn't do enough. And if you're like 9, that's a really, that's a
scary
really
message
lot to take. Yeah. I mean, I remember as a kid going to like Awanas. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but it's like a church youth group sort of thing on Wednesday nights in my particular case. And we'd go, and I'd go with my friends. And, it was a lot of like, run around to the gym for half an hour and then color, stuff for half an hour, do a craft, and then we'd do Bible verses at the end or whatever. And but I had a great time. But I do remember them telling me that like Jesus was going to come back like a thief in the night. And I spent like my entire, the entire age of 8 being terrified that Jesus was going to come in through my window like some sort of lunatic.
What a weird thing to say.
Right. Well, it is a verse, but, it's also like a metaphor. But, also 8-year-olds are dumb. So,
right.
So I didn't understand it as like a metaphor for, the return of, whatever. The rapture is probably never going to happen because it's ridiculous. But, it's just sort of interesting to think of like the message a child would get from this movie, or could take away from this movie, such as, if your parents are divorced, it's because you did something wrong, which is generally not the message.
Oh, there's a lot of inadvertent weirdness that you expertly bring up.
So weird. It's such a weird. There's so many strange messages here, and like I said, in the end, I don't know that it's going to. I don't know that it's effective as a conversion tool, and I think that's who their audience is supposed to be, as evidenced by that last scene where he tries to beat up the school bully into attending his dumb movie.
Well, we've gone on a lot about this. One other thing I need to bring up really quickly was this movie starts out very, very strangely, where his younger sister likes to prank him by turning up the volume on his radio that wakes him up and causes him to fall out of bed. Hilarious. But here's the thing that's really weird about it, is that the movie opens up and the little sister sneaks into the room and you only see her feet, and it's playing this, like, dare I say, stereotypical porno type music, and you don't see that it's the little sister. You see like the feet coming in, and it almost looks like, oh, this is a girl that spent the night. She's wearing like a long t-shirt or something, and something you'd see in some silly sex comedy. But it's like his little sister, and it's shot in such a, I don't want to say suggestive way, because that's not accurate, but with the music and the way it was shot and how it was done, it really gives off a very different vibe than what's actually happening, which was a very strange way to start your movie. You would think the director would be like, this isn't exactly what I'm going for, because it suggests it's a different type of movie, but I don't know. Am I looking too deep into that?
2 points. I think you're assuming the director watched the movie. I don't know that we have evidence of that.
Fair.
I also feel like based on both the interactions of the characters with each other, the depiction of atheism as some sort of beer festival. I'm not super positive that the people involved in this movie had ever like had a conversation with another human, or like were aware of porn.
Well, that might be it. Just the way it was presented was kind of like, am I watching the right movie here? Am I going to get in trouble in 5 minutes? It's like what's happening? But then it quickly got explained like, oh, it's just a little girl, which I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
No, it's weirder. It's weirder that way.
But am I crazy on my thought? Like, am I alone on this, or do you see where I'm coming from? Or
I don't know that was where my brain went to, but I will give you that it's entirely possible that it was a little bit, because the music in the movie was not like great or anything. It kind of sounded like a when you just type in like background music 80s movie or something, and then they just use like a 4-second clip, and this is not a well done soundtrack, which is crazy because everything else was so well done. But so like I said, it's entirely possible. But I feel like, okay, so let me just tell you a story. I remember once reading about, they were talking about how when it comes to they'll have these like photo apps on your computer or whatever, where they're like, hey, we're gonna just like play every photo that's on your that's saved on your computer, and we're just going to play it as like a slideshow. And so you think to yourself, like, that's very weird that they decided that, and it's not like, obviously if it was something where like you drag and drop a bunch of pictures into the slideshow, and then every time you look at your computer it's a cute picture of your kids or something, like that would be cute. But like when you think of all the like weird shit you've taken a picture of, or like naked shit you've taken a picture of. It's not
Jen,
like
do you take a lot of naked pictures?
No, Thor's home. No, well, I obviously don't, but like other people. And so they were talking about how there's this thing in Silicon Valley where every time somebody suggests one of these very stupid ideas, like no one's willing to be like, no, that like, what about the naked pictures I take of my dick? Like, no one's willing to be that guy at the meeting who's like, I take way too many dick pics for this to be a good idea. I feel like it's the same thing where like somebody, they like presented this movie to a room full of people, and like 60 people were like, oh, it feels a lot like a movie I once saw that I wasn't supposed to. Because nobody wants to be the one that like, actually that kind of looks pornographic.
Yeah, you might be right on that. It was just one of the many weird things and decisions that went into this movie. But
again, the thing about the movie is I do feel like none of the actors or directors or whoever was involved in this movie, like none of those people had ever had like a human conversation, which is why they were like, Jesus, man, like that's a thing teenagers say to each other. Mm-hmm. I'm here from the past to tell you no. No.
Well, all I can say is I should look out for those other Cristiano brother films and watch them all, because they're just amazing in every way possible.
Let me tell you, I did enjoy this, if for no other reason than, I'm not somebody who thinks that we all need to watch. Like, I don't understand people who just, like, watch bad movies all the time for fun. Life is too short. Who has the time? But every once in a while, it's nice to just watch something and, like, know that on every level it is a failure. And that, just to, like, sit and marvel at all the people who probably looked at something before they were like, you think of, like, the Kylie Jenner Pepsi ad. How many people looked at that Pepsi ad before it hit the TV, and then they were like, no, that's great, and nobody was willing to be like, actually, here's why this is absolutely not okay. We should not put this out. It's the same way. Like, let's see how many people had to go through and be like, yes, I sign off on this. You can put my name on this. It's fine.
Yeah, I forgot about that ad.
Oh my God. Right, but that was a major company and a major advertisement agency. And everyone was just like, well, I guess this is fine. I guess I don't want to be the guy that's like, actually, here's why we shouldn't do that.
Well, today that we're recording this, it's September 11th. Do you remember the mattress commercial from a few years back?
No. Oh my God. What does that even mean? What does that mean?
So a couple years back, there was some mattress store was having a 9/11 sale,
Nope.
and the commercial was awful. It was filmed. They had like two piles of mattresses lined up, and they're saying, "Oh, you'll never forget this deal, and you gotta come in," and like making all these 9/11 references. And there were two guys behind her who this may not have been intentional, but it doesn't help their case. Happened to be of darker skin, who was helping, like, yeah, buy the mattresses. At the end of it, she like flies out her arms like, you gotta come in, and accidentally, quote unquote, knocks those two guys. They go tumbling back into the mattresses and knocking them down. And she's like, oh my god, oh my gosh, and looks at the camera and deadpan says, never forget. It was one of those.
No.
I'll send you the link later. I'll send you when I'm done with this. But if I could find the video, it's one of those you just look and your mouth just drops, and you're like, they did this thinking, yeah, this was a great idea.
Right.
I mean, I'm all for poking fun at historical events. If you're doing it in some sort of commercial way, but for like an ad or something, because goofy things sell and people respond to things they know, but this was just in poor taste for so many different reasons, and it's just kind of like, oh my god. The mattress store is no longer in business, surprise, but yeah. Ugh.
Good Lord. Well, that's great. That's a real testament to something. I don't know what. It's not great.
Oh. All right. Well, I guess it's going to wrap it up.
Yeah, so to wrap it up, definitely watch this, and then when you watch it, make sure you watch the commercials at the end.
Oh, that's the best part, I think.
Absolutely. Honestly, the movie, weird pacing, very weird pacing, slow to start, slow to end as well, but those commercials, they are perfect.
All right, well, I think there's only one thing we have to do. Hey, Jen.
Hey, Nick.
Jesus, man. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. You've been listening to the All New CultureCast, where every episode is all new. Check out new episodes and our back catalog at allnewculturecast.libsyn.com. We could also be found on iTunes. The All New CultureCast, a saltwater production, copyright 2019. Thanks for listening.
Maybe parenting's not as hard as you guys all act like it is.
Oh, it's really easy, Jen. You should do it. Give it a shot. You and Thor should just have like 6, 7 kids. It's great. I mean, there's nothing.
Perfect.
Like everyone says it's hard, but you know what? Kids are easy. They follow your schedules. If you ask them to do something, they'll do it. But it's easy. I mean, everyone says,
Perfect.
yeah, sure. I'm sure giving birth is tough. I'm not going to argue that point. I'm not a woman, so I can't really explain what the process is like. I'll never have that experience. But everything I've told, that could be a little rough. But after that, it's all downhill.
Okay. All right. I'll text Thor and let him know.